Good evening everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Keeping It Real. Today is Tuesday, the 18th day of September 2018. Folks, we've had a rather exciting few days since Keeping It Real was last on air, and I'm sure you all heard all of the goings on of the politics, the propaganda, the lies, and everything else. You did hear about a meeting yesterday, a press conference actually, that some people saying a lot of things, and we'll get to that eventually. Don't worry, we're gonna keep it real around here. I see Champagne smiling, but we're gonna keep it real, you know. Sometimes very often you hear one side of the story, and sounds so convincing, and especially when you only want to concentrate on one side of the story and make it all seem like something else, you know. But featuring high in the news again, all over social media and in the US, and in fact around the world, because it's in the UK. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, the senseless shooting and death of Botham Shem Jean by that police officer in Dallas, Texas. A rather unfortunate incident. It's something that plays heavily in the fabric of the United States of America, and police shootings of unarmed black men is not anything that's too new. And the thing is that our brother Shem, or Botham, or Bo, as he was called in the US, ignited again the smoldering fire that has raged on, a smoldering fire that has raged below the surface, and every once in a while, like our sulfur springs, erupts because of a dastardly act. And we see so often the results of any trials of police officers ending quite similarly, and this has continued to maintain an outrage in the United States of America. And this pressure has been building for quite a while. Those of you who have been paying attention to what's going on, I'm sure you are familiar with the civil rights movement and black power and all that has affected the black man and woman in the United States of America. So much so that many parents have to have this talk with their young sons once they become of age, to be careful of the police, to be careful of living in a prejudiced or racist society. And as we are so very abhorred, as we are so very outraged in our little part of the world at what happens in the US, you know, it's almost like the US is home to those of us who've lived there, and those of us who live over here but live vicariously in the United States, if I could say that, through relatives and friends. And if you have none of that, through cable TV. You know, we are huge consumers of Americanism, American movies, American music. But that is a phenomenon which is not only isolated to or only affects St. Lucia. It's a phenomenon around the world, so much so that even here there has been talk about it, and in many other countries, in the UK, in Europe, in Asia, there has always been the talk of and an attempt to, if you will, censor or to limit American TV and its influence. But, you know, that is something even more difficult nowadays because of the internet and the access to content from anywhere. And that has terrified many governments. And the thing is that the traditional TV companies, TV stations, cable TV companies have fought tooth and nail to avoid their content from getting out internationally. Nowadays, since that internet thing has made it so easy to cross borders, because, you know, they want to cash in on the content. But even with all of this influence that we have in St. Lucia, and a lot of it has been castigated, has been denounced as the devil, as the influence we don't need in St. Lucia, because we have our own traditions, we have our own culture, we have our own way of life. Just about everybody in St. Lucia can't live without cable TV. Some of them will not buy food to pay that cable TV bill, because they go in nuts if they can't see their favorite soap, or if they can't see the Kardashians, or if they can't get to CNN. And some people are following the Trump saga more than they know or follow anything that's going on in St. Lucia. And you swear that they're Americans living overseas or abroad. But getting back to that black issue with the police, black men being killed in the US. I lived in the US for a while, and I was front and center to a lot of what happened over there, particularly in New York City, because that's the area that I lived in for the longest while in the US, Northeast. And if we remember the case a few years ago in Staten Island, where this guy was put in a chokehold, and chokeholds with the police in the US have created quite a problem, and has been banned actually in New York City and a number of other states, maybe all of them, because of the eventual consequences or results on the victims upon whom it is placed. And since then there has been a proliferation of tasers and other less deadly ways of subduing persons who come into contact with some crazed police officers. You know, the case of Botham Shem Jean has created a little bit of a situation in St. Lucia for us to look at. I want to just touch on that for a while. You know, I actually intended to speak about it later on in the show, but since I'm on it right now and it's flowing, might as well go with the flow and keep it real. That's right, Champagne?
That's what we have to do.
Right. And just getting back to that, the guy who was killed in Staten Island, actually in 2014, on the 17th of July, 2014. His name is Eric Garner. He was a large-sized man, and all he was doing was selling cigarettes. Didn't have a license, but he was selling cigarettes on the sidewalk outside a store, corner store, bodega. One of those of you who've been to the U.S., particularly New York City, you know, these little corner stores, little stores, usually open 24 hours or until very late in the night. And that was yet another spark that erupted into a fire in the U.S. And I'm sure you can remember over the years, even though just living in St. Lucia, the names of individuals who have fallen at the hands of the police for no apparent good reason. I'm sure you remember Rodney King and many other black Americans or black men who succumbed to police brutality. But nevertheless, Botham Shem Jean, his parents are from the Castries area. His father is from Leclerc, related to the former Minister of Government, who I know very well. He went to St. Mary's College some number of years ago. And what has happened is that St. Lucia has now been thrust into the limelight of American prejudice, American racism, supposedly, but a situation which, for many persons, is systemic in the United States. Have black men been treated equally as white men in the U.S.? Well, ask everyone who's black what their experience has been. And for the number of years that I've lived in the U.S., you can ask me what my experience has been. And I'll tell you something. It's very similar. I'm still alive, but I've been stopped by the police in New York for a nonsense reason, obviously. So running for the train one day, a police car pulls up, and the convenient excuse is that you fit the description, we got a report. But you know it's baloney, and nobody really has the time to follow through on that. Of course, I missed my train, but that was a quick incident. And too many people, in fact, during the term of office or terms of office of Mayor Rudy Giuliani, I'm sure that Rudolph Giuliani was called Rudy in the 90s, and I'm sure that name rings a bell to you now because he's embroiled with Donald Trump now. I think he's his attorney now. Isn't that so?
So
Champagne?
That
right.
Is so.
But even before he became mayor of New York City, and what made him really famous, and lots of law enforcement people, high profile law enforcement people, attorney generals and district attorneys and police commissioners and others, eventually get into political life, or they use that high visibility profile to leapfrog into the political arena. And one of the things you may not know, unless you were closely following the news in the US around the 80s, is that Rudy Giuliani was a big district attorney in New York City, and he spearheaded the fight against the mob in New York, Genovese crime family, John Gotti, and a number of them. And to the St. Lucians out there who may be living in New York, sure you know about the mob in Brooklyn and the number of high-profile cases in the early 90s. If you're in St. Lucia and you don't know, I'm sure you could Google it and get some information on that. But nevertheless, according to the information that I have, the body of Botham Shem Jean should be returning to St. Lucia in a few days. Let me just make sure here. I'll tell you what day it is. On Friday, September the 21st at 2:20 p.m., the body will be arriving at Hewanora International Airport. Friday the 21st of September. That's in 3 days. And well, there's supposed to be a route from the airport, the East Coast Road up through the Mon Road, Jeremy Street, John Compton Highway, and turning into LeClery at the VG roundabout. And the hashtag for that has been trending for Botham Shem Jean is Justice for Botham. And a very strong message needs to be sent. And I think it has started very loud and clear with St. Lucians in the UK, St. Lucians in Dallas, Texas, St. Lucians in Miami, St. Lucians in New York City, and of course, St. Lucians all over the world, including St. Lucians in St. Lucia. Just last week, was it last week Tuesday, Champagne, or Friday? Last week Tuesday, there was a vigil at the LeClery Field. I think it was 7 p.m.
Yeah, well attended.
Yes. But in instances like this, we need all hands on deck, because a very strong message needs to be sent. And he was one of us, living outside of St. Lucia, but still one of us with all of his roots in St. Lucia. And I just want to steer your mind to what the situation would be if it was an American who was killed in St. Lucia. If it was a British citizen who was killed in St. Lucia. In fact, we all know very well what the press coverage would be, or has been, when a British citizen met the untimely demise in St. Lucia, or what the press coverage is when an American citizen meets their demise in a tourist spot in Belize, in Mexico, or wherever else. We've heard and seen many of those cases splash across our TV screens in Inside Edition, in whatever investigative program comes on almost on a daily basis. What we have going for us, folks, is that we're not the only ones in this fight, because Botham Shem Jean shares history with many other black men who have been shot down by the police for no apparent reason in the US. But, you know, in all of this, there are many lessons to be learned. It has opened our eyes that even though we're all the way in St. Lucia, that we are playing on the world stage. Botham Jean has done that for us. But it's not only for him, because he'll go down in history as Botham Shem Jean, but what is it doing for a larger picture, the bigger picture of race relations in the US and in fact in the world? And we're also very sensitive, and if you look at all the comments on social media, Facebook particularly, the talk of racism, I think it's very important to have this discussion now, because many of us face racism when we travel outside of St. Lucia. And very often, it's a shock, because we never really experienced racism before. And the type of prejudice that we experience in the bigger world, in the outside world. But, you know, as I said a while ago, the death of Botham Shem Jean has brought a lot of things to the surface. What happens in the US, what happens in St. Lucia, and particularly what is happening in St. Lucia, the stupidity and the abject nonsense which is happening in St. Lucia through politics. And sadly, folks, lamentably, disgustingly, shamefully, our Prime Minister visited the family whilst he was on vacation, took time off in the US, and flew to Dallas, Texas. I don't care what happened before. I don't care what was said by who. I don't care. And if you're a parent, the meaning of that gesture to comfort the family, to say some words of encouragement, does a world of good for anyone. Doesn't matter. Even your worst enemy very often would come to your mother's funeral, would come to your father's funeral, showing a bit of humanity. And our Prime Minister on the world stage, because you better believe it, the same way many people claim that the system is skewed and they're trying to find something on him. Excuse me. If there's an opportunity, as many people think, to link something from St. Lucia as being the cause of that shooting, it would be done. But the mere presence of our Prime Minister does a lot for the visibility of that case, does a lot for law enforcement to realize that that case is under scrutiny, does a lot for persons out there who think that Shem Jean is just another black man without any baka, who's just there, who will be forgotten in no time, whose family, whose relatives, whose countrymen will eventually get tired and forget about it. The presence of our Prime Minister, the presence of his relatives going up there, the presence of a former Minister of Government must be sending shockwaves through the system in Dallas, Texas. But sadly, folks, the presence of our Prime Minister up there has caused the ugly head of stupidity to be raised in St. Lucia and to show itself on social media. Many people were shocked, were amazed. I was stupefied by the stupidity that I saw displayed online. That people would use any opportunity to inject politics, to inject politics. And these buffoons, these clowns, who saw nothing else but to exploit a horrible situation already as it is, to inject their insensitivity, their hackalackery, and their nasty, dirty politics into something like this must go down in history. It must be rejected by all St. Lucians, all good-thinking St. Lucians. Where is the excuse for that? How can you even excuse such a thing? By saying that the family, when they have not expressed anything of the sort to you, that the family should reject the Prime Minister and do like John McCain did to Donald Trump and say that they don't want him to be there. In all their sorrow, in the death of their son, their brother, their nephew, the family should be dirty just as you and forget that pain and suffering that they're going through and stick it to the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. I mean, just stop for a moment. Stop and think about that. Stop and think about that. Does that really accomplish anything for us? And then when we look at the death of Shem Jean, Botham Shem Jean, that many people say is racism at its worst, that it's only because he's black that he is now dead. These same I won't even say these same are now turning that racism around with their own local racism and applying it to our Prime Minister.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have no need to repeat the nonsense, the disgusting statements that are made online. I'm not the only one who saw them, and I'm sure many of you did. Is this what really St. Lucians are about? Is this what our sorrow at this time, our sympathies to the family, even in grief, some people want to capitalize on the moment to spew their hatred, their nastiness, and their dirty politics. And I'm sorry, I have absolutely no understanding and no sympathy for that tonight. And I don't believe that any good-thinking St. Lucian will support such nonsense, such drivel, such slime. That is St. Lucians at their worst. St. Lucians at their worst. Those who engaged in that and those who participated in supporting it by echoing similar sentiments. It is a shame. It is shameful. And I put no water in my mouth to say that. The persons who were engaged in that have absolutely no shame. And I put nothing past them. Because if you could be so insensitive in a time of death, at a time like this, when so many St. Lucians, not only here in St. Lucia, but around the world, in London, in New York, in Miami, solidarity, support for the family, you want to put out there for the world to see, because all the news stations and channels are monitoring the Facebook groups and the government Facebook pages and the individual politician pages to see what the comments are. And not only now, all the time, to get a grip on what's happening, to see what the next story will be. And imagine what can come out of that. St. Lucians, a caption, St. Lucians, insensitive to the death of a fellow man. St. Lucians, vindictive. St. Lucians, dirty politics. The word of the day. I mean, you know, seriously, man. St. Lucians, are you really like that? I wonder, people out there, you can call us. Let's say something for Shem tonight. Let's say what it's taught us in dealing with each other. Has politics gotten you so callous, so insensitive? You can call us. The number to call is 456-0931. You can email us at info@keepingitreal.lc. info@keepingitreal.lc. And don't forget that telephone number, 456-0931. 456-0931. I'd like to acknowledge some of our listeners tonight on the internet, since we're talking about St. Lucians all over the world, particularly tonight, and what has drawn us all together. Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, I see you. Atlanta, Georgia. Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is in the house tonight. Let me pull up my little page here, and we have a call. Good night. Thanks for calling Keeping It Real. You're on the air.
Yes, I know on the air. Good night.
Good night, ma'am.
And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What do you want to tell us tonight?
Don't let them kind of dirty politics keep you all down. Because, oh my God, I have never seen that in my life. I have never seen it in my life before.
But when you read those comments online, how did it make you feel? What went through your mind at the time?
No, because that is death, and that death, we were not expecting that death. We have to be in solidarity with the family. I mean, politics should not be in that death at all. A black man like us is gone down in his room, in his apartment, and we're putting politics into that. Mister, let me tell you something. You know, if we cannot even see what is going on in North and South Carolina, to see the kind of weather the people are experiencing, and we don't put a shame into ourselves and say, my God, what is happening to us in this world? God is fed up with us.
Can you speak a little closer to the telephone caller? You're a little low.
Okay. I said, God is mad at us. Although I'm in my balcony, I don't know what happened to the line. Are you hearing me?
I can hear you, but there's a bit of noise. So we'd like to thank you for calling. Keep tuned in to Keeping It Real, and maybe you could try calling back in a bit.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for calling. Folks, the number to call is 456-0931. I'd like to say good night to our listeners in Brooklyn. We have listeners online in Choiseul as well. And let me go down the list here. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Quite early before the show started. I got a message on WhatsApp from Woodbridge, Ontario. Good night to you. Brooklyn, New York, Castries, and Arlington, Virginia. We have somebody there. And Hillaby in Barbados. Good night to you. And we have a listener in Taipei. Yes, that's Taiwan. And Durban, South Africa. We've seen that one before. And Hong Kong is over here. And St. John's, Antigua, Tortola, BVI. Good night to all of you, and thank you for logging on and listening to Keeping It Real. Don't forget, you can email us, info@keepingitreal.lc, and we have an email here. Let me just get to that. And the email says, where's the content? There we go. Mr. Norbert, good evening. Just wanted to know that Piero is always locked on 6 days a week. Oh, they listen to the station all week. Champagne. We have added 3 more locations. So it seems like they have some more friends and family tuned in as well, who are locked in also in Auger, in the Vieux-Fort Square, and Moulin Chic, all in the house, and all keeping it real. Hey, you like that? They using the expression, keeping it real.
Of course, this radio station is all about love.
Thank you very much.
I preach that all the time.
Thank you to our regular listeners down south, Pierrot, in the Vieux-Fort Square, and Moulin Chic, That's a very nice place up there, Champagne,
Been
especially on a night like tonight, your nice breezes just blowing by. You can chill out, watch some of the jets take off from the airport, maybe catch some lights from St. Vincent side of the channel.
It's a real nice area.
Yeah,
Nice.
you could chill out, get the breeze, you feel you're away from it all,
Nice area.
So what do you have to say about this Botham Shem Jean situation?
Listen, I followed that, and I followed it on the news. I followed it on CNN, and it was really, really frequent over the news. But then the disaster, if you will, with that statement, some of the people are making regarding the Prime Minister is going over there to sympathize with the family. I mean, he's already there in the United States.
But hold on. One thing that I missed out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that some people are just have an agenda. The family have been very thankful and appreciative of the Prime Minister's presence. Right? Who would not be? But it just goes to show you how some people are just sick in the mind. They're just sick in the mind. And I will not get into some information that I have regarding this.
Yes, good night.
Thank you very much for calling Keeping It Real. You're on the air.
Yes, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
It's sad, what I'm just hearing about, the reaction some St. Lucians have towards the circumstances in the U.S., what happened to Jean. Now, it's Kenyonomics for us. I'm just feeling there right now that the Supremo of the Labour Party, what we would recognize as Kenyonomics in some circles, have polarized the politics so much, or St. Lucian so much, that's how they've gotten so debased today, that the circumstances have arisen that even the international world can't understand the politics going on in St. Lucia. And it baffles me, and I'm very sad or saddened by this situation. How St. Lucians can feel that our Prime Minister would have to suffer because of Jean's death. And that means to say, when he comes back, it will be...
Oh, well, that caller got cut off there. I guess he lost the signal or something. Well, what I can say to you folks is that the Prime Minister is back in St. Lucia as of this afternoon from his vacation. And I know for sure, we know that the family has been very appreciative. They've expressed it for his presence there in Dallas at one of the worst moments ever in their lives. One of the worst moments that any family, a mother, a father, could have to face. And what is important is how the family feels. And we can just brush aside the nonsense of some people, because I'm quite certain that the majority of St. Lucians will not give that any credence at all and do not think like that. Again, we did express it last week, Tuesday, and especially for the Keeping It Real crew and myself personally, and I'm sure my family is behind me as well as Champagne's, to extend our deepest condolences to the Jean family.
Oh, yeah.
His mother, his father, his siblings, friends, the extended family. Because nobody would like to wake up to that telephone call.
Yep.
So, in the next few days, we will get the opportunity, on Friday actually, his body will be flown to St. Lucia. And I believe the funeral service is Monday. That's subject to correction, but a few days after that, into next week. And I'm sure St. Lucians will pay their respects, because the death of Botham Shem Jean will not go and has not gone unnoticed. And it'll go down in history because his death will bring about many changes. So, we'll
Take a break?
take a break
Okay.
and come back to you. Champagne is gonna get everything lined up. Okay, folks, looks like we're coming back off that ad. We got a call and that disappeared. We were trying to get into that because some people are calling from far away or don't have too much credit. But anyway, you know, it's such a vicious circle of dirty politics. And, you know, one thing that a number of people have said, in St. Lucia nowadays, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. And if the Prime Minister had not gone over there to Texas to comfort the family, to extend his sympathies. Thank you for calling Keeping It Real. You're on the air.
Good night, Mr. Norbert.
Good night, sir. How are you?
Good night, Mr. Champagne.
Hi, good night.
By the grace of God, holding on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, what I've been listening to, I've been listening to you for quite a while, Mr. Norbert.
Yes, sir.
And what I found about you, very, very intelligent man. Now, let me tell you,
Well, thank you
This
very
morning I
much.
listened
You,
to
well,
radio
you know, what I always tell Champagne over here, because I see him and Uncle Ellis looking at me cross-eyed sometimes, and I have to tell them I'm not as dumb as I look.
No. See, like, about like me, I'm mighty prince, And I tell you, I'm intelligent. I have intelligent talk and intelligent people. I admire them and I appreciate them and I bless them, you know. And you're one of them. This morning I was listening to the radio station. I was trying to criticize the full-time man and all, make fun of you, you know. But the people that are just stupid. You don't know what is education.
But caller, let me interrupt you for just a little bit. You know, sometimes we have to sit back a little bit. And I'll tell you something. I like the name Bowtie Man. People have called me lots of things. They've called me Norbert, they've called me Norberto, they've called me Norbe, they've called me Nob for the TV. You know? But, Bowtie or Bowtie Man, I even saw somewhere where they call me the Bowtie Bandit. But that's, you know, that's St. Lucia. That's okay with me. Those things don't bother me. I don't have thin skin like some people out there.
That's right.
And the thing is, what a lot of people fail to realize is that many of those shows that so many people are hooked on, they're not intended to be factual. They're entertainment as far as I look at them. Something like Saturday Night Live in a St. Lucia context. So you have to take those things with a whole gallon drum of salt. You know, but sadly some people take those shows as the gospel truth when any reasonable St. Lucian can listen to what's being said and in less than 5 minutes deduce that it's a bunch of hogwash. But you know, some people, just like they like soap operas or they like reading the Enquirer magazine, like some of these talk shows, because all they are is just Roro and Papi show. So, you know, if you like that sort of thing, you're gonna like that sort of thing regardless of what I say. But, nevertheless, I'm glad that some people could be entertained and keep themselves out of trouble. But nevertheless, you know, it's entertainment and I don't take any of that personally. You know, I don't really get down on anybody else personally. So we just consider it entertainment. But go ahead.
What St. Lucians is that, you know, they don't respect, you know, I think that most St. Lucians, you know, especially the low-minded people, they always feel everybody's in the same class with them, is the same kind of people like them, is the same category. But it's also, you know, as Desirata will be the higher and higher people than you, there are people in different categories. Desirata tells you that, you know, everybody's not the same. As a leader, don't think so. You don't think to respect certain people. Like everybody's just like them. Everybody's the same. It's not that. You have people like, you see me, my friend, I've gone through so much for my 67 years in St. Lucia. With St. Lucians.
But Princey, with all of that experience and all that you've gone through, what are your thoughts about this Shem Botham issue in Dallas there?
What I'd like to say is that I sympathize with his family, and because when this happened to him, Mr. Ignatius came here at my home to see me, you know, But he didn't talk to me and tell me anything about Botham. He told me something about he wanted somebody to come and leave here and say, but I told him the circumstances and everything. He told me thanks and he left. Mr. Lucia Jean, his uncle.
Yes, I know him very well.
But I didn't really know he had died. Nothing about Botham, nothing. I knew nothing about him at all, and he just told me about if I get somebody to relax there for him. But I didn't know. After I heard about the Botham saga and everything, and then I just realized there was some tragedy. There was some problem, that occurred,
Yeah.
But I think his family accept my condolences, because Jean is a man I voted for, not voted for, but I campaigned for in the election when he was elected. I campaigned luckily for him and everything, So, I don't make enemies with anybody. I just been doing what I have to do. I see things and I see it to be done, I do it for the benefit of St. Lucia and St. Lucian.
Okay.
But I'm being misjudged, misunderstood and everything, and I get a lot of, lot of problems with that. But anyhow, I'm a man of God. I pray a lot. I have told Mr. Champagne, good night.
Good night. I'm hearing you.
Yeah, I'm there.
This is not my show, but the Prince, so I'm kind of on mute.
I just told him that. I was telling Mr. Robert, kind of person that I am. I'm very religious. Don't mind testing all these calypsos and everything, compose them, everything. But I'm a very conscious man. I'm a religious man. I know God. I'm not talking about believing God. I know God. I know who He is. I know what He means to me. And I can move a hurricane from St. Lucia to back to the sea for my faith in Him, in God Jehovah, my Father. I can do anything at all.
Right. But what do you think? I'd like to get your impression. I mean, we keep it real around here.
Yes.
And we're having a particular discussion about this situation. I think it's important because it causes us and it allows us to examine ourselves. What do you think about the Prime Minister's trip out from his vacation and taking time off to go see the family in Dallas, Texas? Do you think that was a good move? Do you think that was politics? Do you think it was the right thing to do? What do you think?
No, I don't think it was politics. I think that, I look at it, he's in America, and he's the Prime Minister of St. Lucia. It would look bad for him to be there, and this kind of situation occurred. And he didn't even pay a heed, to say a few words to the family. It would look very bad. And I think what he did was a very good thing. And even though Mr. Jean is labor and I think what he did, he showed a prevalence that he's not on any kind of hatred of anybody. He's just there doing his work. God upon him to do the work. God put him there, Mr. Allen. God put him there to what he's doing, and they will do all the work against him. They will not succeed.
Well, evidently, the politics or whatever it is did not play any part in him going there.
No, that's not really politics. It's just an illusion that political. Everything is politics.
But why? I mean, even, okay, you want to be political, you were in St. Lucia, the politics and all of that. But why would you want to use a situation like that to spread that type of hatred?
You see, the thing about St. Lucians, I want to see they hate you and they don't like you. They'll do everything in their power to bring you down, But I'm judging on myself before I talk about the Prime Minister. See me, I went through that same kind of situation. Singing them, they laughing, everything. I went to local. Everybody jumping in the street, everybody happy. As Trinidad CDC gave me a crown from Trinidad, Lord Brian a crown to bring for me. They all had break loose, everybody vexed. I should get no crown, it's just that they enjoy themselves, I shouldn't get nothing for that, That's how they think, that's their mentality, and this mentality. And I went through so much, for that song here to look. It's only people like places like Trinidad, like Antigua invited me, when they're blocking me to play in the look on Leah to go to Antigua to sing. Antigua sent a private to pick up on the airport, to bring me in Antigua to perform those who loop, Let's show and Martinique,
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing all of those thoughts, but we got to take another caller now.
Yeah. So the Prime Minister is not wrong, and I think what he did was justifiable.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling.
I'm holding on. I'm hooked on.
All right, Brother Prince. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, folks, that's the mighty Prince, Calypsonian. He was a big name a long time ago. What was one of his famous songs? Don't Smoke Dope.
Don't Smoke Dope. Yeah, and then the
better
Haiti
look
song.
that one up.
The Haiti song was
the
a great
heat is
song.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So, number to call, folks, if you'd like to share your thoughts about this, about Botham Jean's shooting in the U.S. and how you feel as a St. Lucian, and what do you think about relations, race relations in the U.S., you give us a call, 456-0931, or you can email us. The email address is info@keepingitreal.lc. info@keepingitreal.lc. So we're gonna move on a little bit now, and we have a call. Good night. Thank you for calling Keeping It Real.
Ouais, bonsoir tout le monde.
Bonsoir, monsieur. Comment allez-vous?
If Professor Elanis is wrong, tell him the line for the telephone, you need to wrong it because
Yes.
there's a lot of traffic.
Yes. Thank you
Right?
for that
But I
information.
can hear you very clear.
Okay, great.
Coming straight to the point.
Yes. Go ahead.
John Compton formed NLM after leaving Labour Party and merged with the PPP from the UWP in 1964. Compton won election immediately from 1964 to 1979. Spent 15 years in office, and in 1982 to 1997, another 15 years in office. Followed by Labour Party rule 3 years, 1979 to 1982. Now again, in 2011, won 11 seats under leadership Dr. Kennedy Anthony, lawyer by profession, former lecturer in Jamaica with all his honors and so on, but he couldn't cure the bobo. Congratulations to him. Now, Dr. Kennedy Anthony stayed in 19 and a half years in power. Okay, renamed proud to invest in Lucia. Sold land on the people. And I give you that little piece of fiction. You could hear me?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I give you that little piece of fiction because up to a while ago when I listened to Philip Jepierre and look at Philip Jepierre, I wonder if he's taking too much Viagra or something, so if he's smoking or what. But when
But why would you say that?
No, because Philip Jepierre is always quarreling. I mean, you quarreling.
Is that a side effect of Viagra or smoking?
Well, so went up and everything you're taking too much something. You think that's why Lionel Ellis tell you he had to put his car key in another man key in his case. Apparently, what was it? Under what influence was he? He go out to answer that question.
Well, I don't know. You have champagne cracking up on the other side over there. I don't know why he's laughing.
No, I'm coming, but he must laugh because, I mean, I saw your performance. I mean, you were heavily attired. I must congratulate you with your press conference.
Oh, thank you very much.
This is serious business.
It is. It is.
Now, check that. Winston Snack, Alan Louisi, Sir John Compton, Mikey Pilgrim, Kenny Anthony, Vaughan Lewis, Stevenson King, Ozell Williams, Morella Joseph, and the man himself, Alan Shapley, qualified economist. Now, the position is that people voted PM Alan Shapley for changes, tell solutions, they're getting changes. And to see, National Trust is in no position to tell the government to stop work. Come on, man, stop bulldozing the jail because, I mean, from a little boy, I know about this thing when they put fire and they all kind of thing. Where was Tutsi? Tell them National Trust people.
But go ahead. I'll make my point when you're done. I don't know how long you can stay, so.
No, go ahead.
It's interesting because I was looking at the legislation that enabled or created the St. Lucia National Trust. And I don't have it before me right now, but I guess I could just paraphrase that one of the responsibilities of the St. Lucia National Trust is to list. And the first time I saw the legislation, what jumped out at me was the word list, to list historical buildings, sites, all of that. And in 3 or 4 of the subsections or the requirements, it states the word list, to list. And I was saying to myself, right? And I was saying to myself, but that gives the St. Lucia National Trust a lot of power because it seems like they could just arbitrarily just go and decide, this place is a historical site or this area is historical site or this there and all of that. And
But let me ask you, is the jail historical site?
Hold on a second. Hold on.
Oh.
Hold on. But the thing is, the St. Lucia National Trust was formed in 74, 75, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in all of that time, the requirement under the law is for them to list those sites and those locations. But what I was finding out a day or two after I went through the National Trust Act, the law, was that they don't have the ultimate say. In fact, just as I thought, they are required to list those sites and those buildings that they believe should be considered as historical. But that list has to be submitted to the DCA for approval. And the DCA then will examine those buildings, those sites, those locations that has been submitted by the St. Lucia National Trust and whatever other organizations, and decide whether they will be considered or approved as historical in nature. And not only that, that when that decision has been made or that conclusion has been made by the DCA, it will cause that list then, with any omissions or additions or whatever, to be published in the St. Lucia Gazette.
Yes, so Monday
Right?
you can go for avocado.
Avocado.
But no. Now I heard his names because I heard Champagne say he was born very, very late. He's very young.
He's very late.
So Frederick Clapp, Neville Snack, Colette Louise, Ston James, McDonald Dixon, Boswell Williams. Now, I mean, who is the Governor General now? We have
Neville Snack. So Neville Snack.
Okay. Now, why Michael Shaftney can't be Governor General when he had all the chains, all the supermarkets, thousands of people working? Why he can't sit down and relax? So if they give Michael Shaftney, they will say he is the father of Alan Shaftney. Let me tell you, I'm in that politics from 1964.
Well, you know, it sounds like you're very versed and knowledgeable about what's been going on.
Eric Bromford, Irving Norville, people like what's his name, Gregor Williams, all these guys. They tell me I have to speak up now because of their position and so and so. But there's certain things. If them Labour boys want to have a dialogue, talk about Alicante, they have UWPs that are ready.
Oh yeah.
We are ready. But I'm just giving them time and chances, because the first thing I'm going to tackle them for, Radio St. Lucia. Why they let Radio St. Lucia in their jam almost 3 million? Yesterday per week. That's what I'm going to tackle them. But as the program go along, I find you doing very good, man. Where were you all the time, guys? You said you were, but I don't understand, man. You're doing very, very good because we spoke about you and
I hope it's good things you said, Because fellas like Champagne say a lot of bad things about me,
Caller.
Him and Uncle Ellis.
Caller.
What? No, it's not caller. The name is Charles Creole, Folklore, Good Low, Potobopo.
Okay, Mr. Charles. You know what? Would you be able to come on a program with Mr. Norbert one of these Tuesdays? Oh boy,
he's
I think we lost that.
Okay, I guess we'll get him sometime.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. He seems to be very knowledgeable about what has been going on in St. Lucia. Names and everything, yeah, but you're not on mic. Your mic is off. You're
like
just
I
talking
said,
in the wilderness.
Listen. I do not want to get involved, interrupt your program. This is your
No,
program.
it's
When I have my
interrupt.
program, then I'm on.
You're in here.
But it was very interesting what the caller. He was really a little bit disgusting with the National Trust.
So let me get
I'm
back.
so happy that you brought out the information because I keep telling our listeners that when you come up here, look at the stack of paper you have, that information to give out to the public. So I'm very happy that you give out some information.
But as I was saying regarding the DCA, yeah, what a lot of people don't know, and I think it's very interesting, that the St. Lucia National Trust, according to their very own arguments recently, is that they have been receiving a subvention from the government for a very long time. Very long time. And they have been required under law to submit a list indicating the historic sites, locations, places, similar things of the sort. I can't find it here in this stack of papers there, but I'll find it eventually, and then I could read it out to you all. But lo and behold, folks, the interesting thing about it all, and sometimes when you come across information and you become aware of things, you just, this light bulb goes off for you. You start asking yourself questions like, aha! The St. Lucia National Trust. Oh, got another call. That's great. Thank you for calling Keeping It Real. You're on the air.
Yes, sir. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Fine, thank you.
And I want to express my condolences related to the, as it be, to Mr. Lionel Ellis.
Yes.
Is that the name?
Yes.
Yeah. His mother passed away some time ago, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I remember when he came on the air, maybe about 2 weeks ago. Is he in studio with you there right now?
No, he's not tonight, no.
Yeah, he did. I remember he saying that, he's not in a good mood this morning. Blah, blah. A few mornings, maybe 2 weeks ago, thereabouts. And then then later he explained because, the pressure with regards to his mother's situation and so on and so on, and, So I want to express that to him. And
okay.
Secondly, I want to say that although I certainly did not come from, I came from very much a Labour Party background, but you, Mr. Robert Williams?
I am.
And I've never heard anybody present a case for government as well articulated, as well presented as you have been doing.
Well, thank you very much. I try.
And, I'm very impressed with that. I mean, you really expose various aspects, in a well-presented manner, I must say. And you have actually caused my mind an idea to shift on my position on something that I can't remember what it is there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, let me talk a little bit about the old prison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Were you ever in there?
Well, I made it my duty to be there, and I suspect many solutions have not been there at all.
Well, Champagne wants to know whether you were ever in there.
Yeah, I went there. I mean, about a week ago. I was just so curious because in passing on my way up towards Central Police Station, I remember there was this massive earth-moving equipment there.
Well, caller, if I can interrupt you just a little bit, because since you said that you had visited the location,
Yes, I actually went into the building. It was a little spooky. I could feel the presence of spirits and everything. I got a little scared even.
But just as you, I was curious as to, what was going on there. So, I mean, I'm a very curious individual. I have been for a very long time.
Brought me there, really.
Yeah, and I went in there. And just for the folks out there who wouldn't dare venture to go in there, and, those who just pass every day for so many years along Bridge Street without even knowing what was there. I went in there.
Now you could see the building by just passing,
And I'll just share a little bit of my experience there. Because it was not Friday gone, it was the previous Friday. I'm always walking around with my camera. Some people say that, and most people know that I'm an avid prosumer, not professional, but up on the upper levels of photography. I like recording what I see. And I went in there, and I'll tell you the first thing that really caught my attention, if you will say, it jarred my senses, was the smell. It is unbelievable, the stench. You got the right word, the stench of feces inside that place. And I'm saying, but this place was not occupied. It was shut down for so long. The place smelled like a sewer, like it was an open toilet.
But there was evidence that some people, people might have been occupied.
Well, that is correct. But what I really want to allude to is that if this building was of such critical importance of being historical or historic, that the St. Lucia National Trust paid absolutely no attention to this building, which was in the middle of town, which was next to a building which, for all intents and purposes, is almost ready to collapse, the old police barracks.
In other words, they had not pre-identified it as a building that should be...
Caller, are you a god, eh?
Well, I mean...
Well, what I was getting to a while ago, and I'll just put it out there since you brought this up, is that the St. Lucia National Trust came into being in, let me just look at the top. I pulled it up online. In 1975, on the 26th of September, 1975, signed under the hand of Alan Lewis, governor of St. Lucia. Right?
Okay.
And let me just read that little thing for you quickly. I'll just fly through it. Section 4, the objects of the trust shall be: A, the listing of buildings, objects, and monuments of prehistoric, historic, and architectural interest, and places of natural beauty with their animal and plant life. B, the listing of objects of prehistoric, historic, and archaeological interests. C, the compilation of photographic and architectural records of the above. D, to locate and to promote the preservation of buildings and objects of archaeological, architectural, historic, artistic, or traditional interest, and the establishment of museums. Now, the important word there, the listing.
Yes,
Would you know?
They should have generated that listing years ago.
Caller, hold on, caller. Would you know that since 1975, where is this thing here? Since 1975, with that mandate to do what is listed in the St. Lucia National Trust Act, and all the talk of patrimony, our patrimony, we giving away this and we breaking down this and all of that, which is supposed to be of paramount importance, and under the protection, whatever comes up and is accepted as historic, under the protection of the St. Lucia National Trust, the whole raison d'etre, the whole reason behind them being created. Do you know, since 1975 to 2018, 43 years, the St. Lucia National Trust has only submitted one list of historic buildings and locations in St. Lucia, and that was only done this year.
After
2014. Hold on. Only in the recent past. I think that's coming from over there. Right? Only in the recent past, in 43 years, one list. There was no list in 1975. There was none in 1976. Nothing in 1977, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. You want me to go on? All of a sudden now, they've acquired this sensitivity. All of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I mean, it probably was not hardly on their radar.
So you're left to wonder. But the interesting thing too, caller, in that one list that they have presented or submitted or compiled in 43 years, guess what? The Royal Jail on Upper Bridge Street that they're so concerned about now is not even on that list.
Yeah, as I said, the radar missed it, but to me, clearly, to me, that building should have been identified because of historic and whatever. Because, I mean, let's face it, that building was constructed when, they started construction maybe 2 decades before slavery came to an end. So, obviously, it was slave labor.
The place was vacant since Bordeley. Since Bordeley.
Since Villain John. I remember there was a fire.
Yeah.
At that.
There have been more than one fire. There was a fire in, was it Champagne in 1979?
As a prison, has lived its time as a prison, obviously.
But then even all of this politics that's going on now, there was politics involved in 1979, which led to the burning down of that prison And if you remember, because I remember, there was what was it?
There was a relationship between the politics and what happened.
Yes.
I am in no position to
No. I'm telling you, I'm not asking you that. It was fomented by politics around the time of independence in 1979, and as a result of the fire in that prison there on Bridge Street, the Royal Jail, spelled Gaol. As a result of that, they had to put a camp down in Cul-de-Sac or Hudson, right? And where the prisoners were kept for about 6 months whilst they repaired that prison there. So the people who don't know what's going on there, that was directly related to politics. And guess which party was involved in that? I'll leave that to your imagination. But anyway, thank you very much for calling.
You have not allowed me to say anything.
Well, you've been on for a very long time. You want to go? Let him go.
You took over.
We'll give you 2 minutes. We'll give you 2 minutes.
Yeah. Now, I mean, having said all what was said between, the discourse between me and you, but when I went there, I looked at that building. Okay, I didn't go on the upper floor because it was not such a comforting place to be in because of the
condition that it's in.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, to me, it should have been cleaned up. And, to me, that building could be used for some purpose. Because when I look at a building with walls that's as thick as 2 feet, the walls are that thick, some of the very thinnest walls in there, somewhere between 8 to 10 inches thick. But then outside walls, inside walls are very, very thick, And it would be a pity to demolish that building. And to me, it would be a rather costly thing to do as well. Because, I mean, to me, that would be needing dynamite and all that. I sure they got a big
excavators.
Of moving equipment there. But I'm just saying, and from a personal point of view, it has nothing to do with politics. And, I say I can tell you a party background, but I can tell you, since the millennium, I've never been to the polls. And it's mostly for ideological reasons, because the Labour Party and UWP are running on the same ideology of perpetuating the status quo on the neo-colonial standards, and I don't want to vote. I don't want to be part of that. But so I was saying that I wish that building, they could figure some way of renovating that building and use it as a national archive, use it as a museum, use it as a place for for some reason other than just simply demolishing it, whereas that building is almost 200 years old. It's probably one of the first structures to be built in Canada, long before most of the other buildings in Class 3. So it could really be a pity to be demolished, okay?
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for calling. We appreciate your call. Let's give somebody else a chance. The number to call is 456-0931. 456-0931. And, Champagne, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I had a call on my program on Saturday morning, and it's a gentleman that worked in that prison as a prison officer from 1966 up until 1991. And he's a gentleman by the name of Mr. Michel. And he said it was a horror working in that place. And I let him speak for at least 20 minutes. And let me say something you better know. But this gentleman said that prison had to be demolished a long time ago. So everybody has their own personal opinions about the building, but the government has to do what they have to do, I guess.
Yes, but that's all well and good. But what was I saying here, Champagne?
Saying that the building was not on the list.
Yes, it since 1975.
Yeah.
Only one list.
Wow.
Has been submitted. So you're left to wonder about all of these so-called historic sites, whether they actually are, let's get it now, legally, historically, or historic sites which are protected. So I'm left to wonder, just a question, just a question, I don't know, just a question, whether Maria Islet is really historic. Mm-hmm. Whether it's legally, it's there. We all take it for granted that it is. But did the National Trust do what it needed to do? Or were they responsible for listing it and putting it on the record
That's right.
as a historic
And
site.
your
or a
reason
nature
for
site?
asking that is because it has not been listed. Marie Island.
Because there has only been one list.
That's right.
So in 1975 or 79 or 85, when there had been no list submitted, was it legally a historic site? We're not, when you're talking about legally, it's something totally different, because there are certain responsibilities, there are certain protections, there are certain offenses that can be committed at a historic site. Now, if it is not legally or lawfully a historic site, then you cannot deal with it in a certain way, and it cannot get funding for certain activities or certain construction that you want to put in there, because legally there's no authority to allow you to spend funds for a legal historic site. Does that make sense to you?
Makes a lot of sense.
So I think that's an interesting question to ask.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question to ask. And if the National Trust took funds which had been vested in the trust for historic sites and had spent that money at locations without having them legally declared as historic sites,
That's interesting.
there may not necessarily be repercussions for that. But I'm just
asking.
keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. Okay? Just keeping it real. 4560931, folks. You can give us a call and express your thoughts and ideas on this situation. I'm asking. Ma avoca, I might be an avocado. Champagne, you laughing. But I'm only noticing now, tonight, that you're wearing goggles. Oh, it's just reading glasses or what?
You're trying to put all my business out in public, but this is
But
not my
no,
program.
over here we have to keep it real. We're keeping it real. I suspect who's calling, but good night. Thank you for calling, keeping it real.
How does a certain you could detect who has been calling?
Well, I don't know. I suspect. I didn't say that I was necessarily correct.
You said
But
you
Champagne
suspect.
seems to know who you are.
No, Mr.
Robert.
Robert.
Yes, sir.
I thought, after I spoke on Friday night, that issue on the prison
Michelle.
had gone.
Well, Champagne says you're Mr. Michel, so I'm
That's
gonna go
right.
with that.
And I'm not only Mr. Michel. I have been a prison officer working at Her Majesty's Prison from 1st March 1966 during the reign of Mr. Pegg. He was the superintendent at the time. Good. And I ended my term in 26 June 1991.
1991.
Yes, sir.
So you have all the secret plans for that place at your house.
No, let me tell you. When first day I walked into this yard.
Let me ask you a question. Do you wear glasses?
Yes,
Did you wear glasses when you were at the prisons?
yes, sir.
I think I that voice sounds vaguely familiar.
So,
That voice sounds familiar.
And when I got in there, Mr. Pegg was an advisor sent from England to rectify the 1963 riot at the prison. He was the one who employed me. And it was not any beautiful place to work. Officers had no dormitory. Everything was... Let me start with the conditions of officers. The officers' dormitories, that building is a 3-story building. The first, second, and the third floor was a wooden structure. That was the officers' quarters, the officers' dormitory. And that is where. So, what I'm saying to you, prisoners was sterile. The basement, the first floor, and the officers were on the third floor.
But let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst you were there, or when you started, what was the original capacity of Her Majesty Prisons, the Royal Jail?
Well, I wouldn't know. I couldn't know what was the original capacity. I don't know what I met there.
Yes, well, what did you meet there?
When I met there, with the capacity of over 200.
It was 200. But what was it designed to house?
No, I never did this research.
Oh, you didn't know that. Okay.
Never.
I think, if I remember vaguely, a long time ago, way back from 79, 80s, I think if I remember correctly, maybe somebody could call in with that. The capacity was supposed to be something like 80. And at that point, when there was a lot of confusion, a lot of instability at the prisons, I think it was somewhere around 300 or 400 capacity, and there was a lot of issues about that.
Well, I know. Let me go on. The structure we were supposed to be working at a maximum security prison.
I was just informed that the original capacity of the prison there on Bridge Street was 60. The original capacity was 60. 60.
60?
60, yes. And it housed much more than that eventually towards the end.
Mister, that prison went up. That prison went up to almost 500.
Yeah, it was designed for 60, but it had almost 400 and something. That's what I recall.
Anyhow, let me give you this one again.
Yeah.
When I went in there, everything was in a mess. Yeah? Imagine, that is where stones used to be broken. And when you went in there, they take the dust and fell on the ground.
The what was that? What was that?
They used to make stones, they used to break stones.
Break stones, that's right. I remember that with some big sledgehammers in the yard.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sorry, man. Hello?
Yes, go ahead. I remember
Now,
that. They used
thing
to break
about
rocks in there. That was hard labor. That was for those who were sentenced to hard labor.
Well, yes. I know. Let's give this topic a hard labor. The way I'm saying is, those guys, all those stones. Now, when I went in there in 1966, going into the yard, my boots would be stuck in mud. And my boot, if I would be careful, it would be pulled off my foot.
Okay. Caller, we're going to have to give you 2 more minutes, but I'll tell you something that we have not done on this show before. I would like to invite you over here so that we could discuss a lot of these issues with you, because you seem to be a repository of a great deal of information that a few minutes on the phone is not going to do justice to the knowledge and experience that you have, particularly over there. Maybe we can have champagne. Maybe we can have
well, on Saturday, I'd invited him to come to the program.
Yeah.
Because he seemed to have a whole lot of information about the prison.
Yes.
Majesty's prison. Yes, sir.
I am sick and shut in, gentlemen.
You're what?
Sick and shut in.
He's what?
You're what?
I am sick and shut in.
Oh, well, we're sorry to hear that.
Well, maybe we can come and do an interview with you.
Exactly. It would be nice to come over there.
Gentlemen, the abolition of this building should be done since 1979, after the fire.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the building was supposed to be demolished from 1979? Okay.
Because there is a certain act in the law that says, anytime there's a disaster or building is extremely damaged, the governing council had to, through the direction of the superintendent of prisons, shift the prison from that position. Once it is to be life, once it to be a hazard to life. But what happened? There was no place around. So what they had to do was to just repair the building and house them back. And it was a long story, gentlemen, and I would advise, when you're arguing about it, I think you people should go and visit the structure.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, Mr. Michel. What we will do is arrange to have an interview with you at your house. I think that would be great, and we could get quite a bit of what you know about that area, about that structure.
No, let me give you that. Right now, presently, there are 2 officers. That's all right.
Okay, we'll give you 1 more minute, okay? Because we have to take some other calls.
Okay.
Okay?
And I am praying to the public to ignore this position that have been taken, where people are objecting to the demoralization of this building. They had to be, because even while there were people in there, it was thinking. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Michel.
Okay.
All right. Have a good evening.
Have a good night. Folks, I want to read to you just a little excerpt here from the Voice newspaper from way back when. But I really said that I have to find it to get into the archives of the Voice from 1958. And this was quoted here. I'll just read this little excerpt. And, well, I'll read it to you and then I'll give you my understanding or what I get from it. Back in 1958, Lord Farrington, a visiting British lawmaker, made a most damning condemnation of St. Lucia's Royal Jail. As reported by The Voice, he described the Bridge Street prison as an abomination and expressed the view that the only remedy is to blow it up with dynamite. Good evening, caller. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
You know, as a taxpayer of this country, I need to ask you a question. And we've probably heard it time and time again that we need accountability from persons in position. And having received taxpayers' money over the years, you know, if it is that this place is found to be worthy of being recognized as a historic building, shouldn't the trust be reprimanded for having neglected it?
Well, caller, if they have not or had not presented a list for 40 years or so, because they were enacted in 1975 and have only submitted, according to my information, only 1 list, and fairly recently, all of that monies that were presented to them or subvented to them, you're left to wonder what they did and whether they legally expended those monies for the purpose for which they were created.
Because I mean, I'm hearing from certain quarters that, you know, probably part of the reason they were not able to deal with situations like the prison and making it a part of the list is because of the loss of the subventions. So I'm saying, what
really? But what happened to all of those years before?
You know, what happened?
Loss of the subvention?
Imagine that.
In fact, according to them, the subvention amount remained the same through the years. So the question to ask is, or the logical conclusion to come to, is whatever it was, $700,000.
Yeah.
If that is what is that keeps coming up there? That was given to them 20 years ago. $700,000 20 years ago could have done much more then than it does now.
You know. Now the other thing too is looking at this facility, this structure. I mean, how would one be able to maximize the use of that space with that structure, you know, in its current location? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, you look at the St. Jude's Hospital, and persons are saying it would probably have been better to knock down the whole thing and rebuild than to have built on the existing.
Well, I think St. Jude's Hospital compared to that location is two very different things.
I'm talking about trying to build an old structure. Trying to build an old structure can cost a lot more.
Yes, of course.
Than if you were to build it from the ground up. So, I mean, really and truly, I cannot fathom the case that is being made about, you know, keeping the structure, use it as museum. To do what? How much? What would be the return on this so-called museum that persons are asking for? What exactly are you inviting?
Well, caller. Well, let me tell you something. You see, it's the hypocrisy that we have to face in here, and apparently, some people depend heavily on St. Lucian's not remembering too far back, maybe not even remembering past the last month. Because a number of years ago, and I think I recall it very well, and I mentioned it to some people this week and last week, and they were like, oh, you know what, that's true. You reminded me of that. You know, I completely forgot about that. And I don't know if you recall, some years ago, when the Golden Hope Hospital site was projected to be the new office of the Prime Minister?
Yes, I remember that very clearly.
Did you hear the National Trust saying anything about 2 of the 3 buildings there that were going to be demolished? Not a word at all.
No.
Not a... You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. The hypocrisy, the manufactured outrage. That's what I call it.
I'm now understanding that there were buildings in a particular basin in Castries where those buildings were also considered to be of historic value. But, I mean, those buildings were knocked down without the trust even realizing that they were going down. And making a pitch to have them, you know.
But I want to ask you a question. Why do you think that the National Trust said absolutely nothing when there were definitely plans to demolish 2 of the 3 buildings in the Golden Hope complex at Latoc to then construct the new Prime Minister's office? And hold on, part of the plan was to use the bricks from the demolished building in part of the construction of the new office space.
Okay, so you want my response?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, is that a rhetorical question?
No, I'm asking you for a response. Well, it can be if you want it to be.
Well, because that's what I gathered from it.
A state-of-the-art office of the Prime Minister. That's what it was referred to as.
The answer to that is quite obvious. So I don't think that really...
Well, it's not necessarily obvious. It's what you think, because you may have a different feeling about it than I do. But nevertheless, as I will say that the St. Lucia National Trust are a bunch of hypocrites, and just like the SLMDA, apparently they were working in the background.
I wouldn't just say hypocrites, but I mean you can see clearly, you know, the direction that they go in is that they only have voice at a particular time. So I wanted to also find out whether you could provide any information, because the person really heading the National Trust, in charge of the National Trust, those persons seem to have been there forever, and there seems to be nothing really happening where the trust is concerned and their mandate, except that they will come out ever so often, and throw a few blows when it is convenient, So I want to know whether you would have any information as to how the board or the National Trust will change the persons who would head that organization, so that if it is something for the population, then it means that persons should be able to get you should be able to get new ideas, new blood into that place. But it seems to be,
I think that is up to them to decide. I'm not too sure about the procedure for them in there, but I think it's internal elections or selection. But nevertheless,
but the public needs to be aware as to how persons contribute on the National Trust.
Well, I think if you become a member or you give them a call, they have that information. Or what I would suggest is that you go to their website. I'm sure they should have that information there.
Yes, it would be interesting because, sometimes, to really make changes, you need to get into those institutions. But then, for some reason, it's the same faces all the time. And, you can't have progress that way, having the same people with the same old ideas. That is why probably nothing has happened in terms of the posting in the Monday.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for calling, caller. And we invite you to give us a call again on the next show. Okay? Thank you very much. Gonna pay the price someday.
Good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you very much for calling, keeping it real.
Yeah, I need to keep it real tonight. First and foremost, what I would like to say tonight is that I would like to say kudos to our Prime Minister for having his presence felt in the United States. It was very important for me as Prime Minister to get there to encourage Caribbean people, and especially St. Lucians, to stand for our protection wherever we go in the world. We are a nation, and I want to applaud him for this. I want to say for those people who had their opinion, one thing about me, that is your opinion. But one thing I want to say tonight, I think it is necessary for this program to bring Mr. Tulsi on the program and educate us on the National Trust. The National Trust is an institution of the government and people of St. Lucia, and I think it needs to be respected. And as I say the word respected, I think, Mr. Robert, you need to be a little more catchy with your opponent.
With my what?
With your opponent or proposed opponent.
Who's my opponent?
I just say to you that some words that you use to describe some of us, I personally don't subscribe to it because
in reference to what, you have to tell me what you're referring to.
I do not want to mention the words, but if you call us reprobate, or you call us they just be talking and just making statements and that.
But you're not giving me any reference to what you're saying. I need to know what I was saying.
I think I don't want to get into this, but one thing I want to say tonight.
Okay, so then we have to hold on a second. So then, what you just said, we have to strike it off the record.
Let's strike that off. I don't want to waste time on that. Let's strike that. I just want to say tonight that there is a matter for judgment. I will say nothing concerning the prison tonight. I will say it after the judgment. As a supporting member of the National Trust, and St. Lucian, I'm happy that a lot of people call tonight. But one thing I want to encourage you, their website, and that's why every time I say these things, that for people to research.
But what I want to ask you, caller, all right, since you're talking about the National Trust and you support them, the National Trust was enacted in 1975. We're in 2018. as I read out earlier what the responsibilities and what the mandate was to the trust when it was enacted in 1975, there haven't been any real amendments to that act, which means that the requirements under the law has been consistent, has remained what it was since the inception of that organization, of that trust. So what do you think about the trust being charged with that responsibility, not having submitted a list of those historic sites, archaeological sites and buildings for almost all of its existence, only submitting a site fairly recently, and a list fairly recently, and that list not even having the royal jail included on it, and also the trust's lack of making any statement, right, any statement about the proposed demolition of the Golden Hope Hospital at Latok some years ago for the building of a new office of the Prime Minister. What say you on that?
What say me on that is that you said that you read what governs the National Trust. You cannot speak, you take more than a show to do that. I encourage, and I want to speak to my point, I do not want to go there because of politician. I am not going to say anything concerning. All I do is to encourage people. I like to encourage people.
But why won't you go on there? You're very willing to condemn and to speak about other things.
You heard what, I give you a reason why. And I said that
what reason is that? But you hear now.
Is the fact, my reason is the fact that there is a matter, a judgment on the trust and the prisons. I need not say nothing. Let's wait for the judgment.
Your opinion based on information that we already have has nothing to do with a judgment.
Information that you already have. I said to you, I would prefer that you bring Mr. Tulsi on the show.
Yeah, we've gotten past that. I'm asking. That's not what I'm asking you. You sidestepping the issue. I asked you what is your opinion about the trust being charged with the responsibilities in the act since 1975. We're in 2018, and the only time, or they have only submitted one list, which was fairly recently, and they have been in existence 43 years. I also further went on to ask you, what is your opinion about the trust's silence when it was announced that the Golden Hope Hospital complex would have been demolished for the construction of a new office of the Prime Minister?
I suppose at that time, right? At that time, the trust, at that time, if it would have happened, because of the relationship between the trust and the Development Authority.
What relationship? What relationship?
Check
What type of relationship you talking about?
Both ways, the Development Authority and the National Trust are supposed to be communicating over things.
What are you talking about? What are you saying?
Bring Mr. Tulsi on the show and we will finalize it.
No, this is not.
I want to just say, want to say to all the people who called tonight, I'm happy that they were callers tonight because that makes the show a little more interesting.
Thank you.
And I am in support of this show. I will make my comments.
We know. We like when you call. It spices things. It spices things up a bit.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Although callers, sometimes your arguments are a little incongruent. You know, they're just not gelling.
That may be so.
Yeah.
And sometimes I may feel the same about you,
but that's all right.
Let me leave before I leave to say to the Jeff family, because that's what the program was supposed to be.
Yes.
We move aside, but I enjoyed it. Let me say to the family that my family, we stand behind you, and I encourage all solutions at home and abroad that this is bigger than us.
Yeah.
It is bigger than the Prime Minister. It is Miss Lucia. He respected that stand with one voice, one heart.
Thank you very much for calling again.
Thank you, my brother. Have a good night.
Good night.
Well, we're almost at the end of our time, folks. It's 9:56 on Tuesday, September the 18th, 2018, episode number 13. Good evening. Thanks for calling Keeping It Real. You're our last caller tonight. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. What's up?
Good.
This guy.
Good night.
Well, you see, my beloved brothers, I mean, all this kind of innuendos and so on, I think it is incumbent on the relevant authority of that station to bring in Tutsi to clear the air.
Yeah.
Because we hence all kind of accusations and all kind of stuff like that and things. And I think it is imperative that prisoners was really assisting prisoners, and there was this kind of calmness. In addition to that, I could remember even True Tones came there and the other concepts.
Wow. So how long you work there, Akola? How long you work at the prisons?
Maybe about 10 to 15 years now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, Mr. Michel and he was my senior,
Mr. Michel just called me a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he my senior. I'm the guy they call Opel, office number 19 Opel.
Okay, so you're in full support of the prison being knocked down?
Yeah, they got to knock down that, man, But you know me, we spoke in the
I
past.
know. We spoke. You see, the program is not mine, and if I could say it off, Mr. Norbert just stepped away from his chair for a minute, so that's why you heard me.
Yeah, man. So, guys, good show. Take it easy, man.
Yeah, all right. You have a good evening. All right, my brother.
Involving, the activists Duke of Edinburgh Award and this and that, and then my now present mother-in-law had a building that had slave cauldrons and all these things underneath it. They were into buying those old buildings at the mall. So I really became involved. First, it was supposed to be in A&H, but that's where Gregor had his heart, and Branny and Branford. Branford was my father's very close friend living in our same area.
Yeah.
So they brought me involved in all that kind of thing, and I'm the child that's like that kind of thing. So
yeah. So you would have a lot. You would know a lot of history.
All kinds of stuff. And people come yesterday. What annoys me is that they want to tell me. I'm not criticizing what they say, but they want to tell me what I must say. I just wrote a comment. In fact, I was responding to somebody who asked, demolish or not demolish, and you would not believe the attacks I got because I gave my own view as a long-standing trust member. I don't even want to go to trust meetings anymore because if you talk, there are people that want to eat you up for me giving your opinion.
Wow.
You understand? It is so bad, and I've been in this trust. I sat down, and Giles Romulus, he can tell you, sat down and revised the administrative principles for almost free for the trust. Being with Marcus, the of us were on the board. Long time, those things were on the board, be very active.
So can you express your position on the prison, the demolition?
Let me tell you something. I'll express my opinion this way for you in the way that I have expressed anything. In my house full of antiques, okay?
Yeah.
There are all things I keep that is worth keeping, that you can keep.
Yeah.
Because antiques are very expensive to maintain. So I keep what I see what is of value, what is of interest, can be maintained in my home. The things that the Woodens have taken, I have to get rid of them. Sometimes it's sad to get rid of old things, but for you have to look at what is their value for you. This country cannot maintain all the old buildings that they have, or if not, the married women quarters would be up already and already a museum in St. Lucia since the day the trust have it. Okay, not today they have that building. They cannot build it into the museum. It has been donated to them. I live in an old military building, very, very, very old. And I will not tell you what it costs to maintain that building at our own private cost, although it's a listed building. I don't know whether the National Trust or any government for that matter comes and tell us or my mother-in-law, look, $2 to repair or maintain. So when I heard of this kind of thing going on, I gave my opinion. I'm not saying that those that want to support, keep it. Keep what are we keeping, and for what are we keeping in the heart of the city. So my way of going and saying, I miss the Hollywood, and I miss the big trenches by where Crick was. I went to the Methodist school.
You miss those colors?
The little fish when things were much cleaner in the gardens with these little fish coming up from the sea.
Listen to me, gentlemen. I am in nostalgia. It's deja vu. I miss the abattoir. I miss Conway.
You miss the coal market.
I miss the coal. I miss that big building that was over where the arcade is. I miss that. I miss so many things. Where is Rain, my lovely place I used to eat? I miss that. What are your problems? Where you're going forward? In fact, the United States should have remained in the days of cowboy. I like to see people on horses. I miss those things. That is how I respond.
You know, this is one thing that I always say when people say the good old days, or they miss the good old days, they wish St. Lucia could go back to the good old days. Well, the good old days is not only eating green fig and salt fish or eating pemmy or anything. If you have to go back to the good old days, everything else has to go back to the good old days.
That's what she's
You
saying.
have to go back to driving or riding in a caboose.
Or
right?
Bontu and put on the Audi.
That's right. That's
Put
right.
down the Audi, and I want Bontu to come back.
That's right.
And drive me around and put on the Audi and pack that.
Ride on Billy B and smell smoke and exhaust all the way.
Cleaner, we will probably live longer. You know, I miss all those kinds of plastic bottles. Let us go back to using brown paper.
Yeah.
You know, let us stop. There should be what happened.
The good old days, pit toilets.
To my time, therefore, nothing must evolve for my children and my grandchildren.
Exactly.
That is where we must stand. And if I talk against that, there will come a bunch of people that will come on there and tell me, why don't you shut your so and so? Go and learn. You're uneducated. This, that.
Yeah, don't worry.
That's, people don't even know me. They calling me uneducated.
Yeah, don't worry about that, caller.
Just watch it on Facebook.
But let me ask you a question, caller. Since you were a member of the St. Lucia National Trust.
I'm a life member. Can never
Okay.
leave.
Well, since you are,
yes,
and must have rubbed shoulders with a number of people and known quite a bit of what has been going on there. What do you think contributed to, or what do you think was the reason why all the responsibility or the charge to the St. Lucia National Trust in listing all of these monuments and historic sites was never done in the 43 years, and only one list has been submitted only recently? Why do you think that one of the major reasons for the trust actually being in existence was never fulfilled by the trust until recently?
a few old men, Julian Horn, John Compton, etc., them came up together and saw a vision. And of late, yes, I have my own personal view, and I cannot tell it to you on the air because I know a lot of things, and if I put it there, I would probably be hurting a lot of people and causing a lot of problems. But you see the people that sitting down there and talking what they're saying, you just watch that space. Watch them who spout what they're spouting. If God forbid, because they seem to think that St. Lucia stop in a time zone.
Yeah.
It just freeze there. And they don't want you to say, well, what happened a few years ago? You didn't see that before?
Yeah.
If you just say that, they all over you, because in this place they alone have a voice. This is St. Lucia. This is a democracy. And I will defend and die for people to be able to speak and air their thoughts. Let them come and interfere with me and tell me I cannot speak when I am not criticizing them for what they're going to say. If I tell you why, and I do know why, what the problems were, and I have seen it, but in this world, and it's not one set of people or one party set of people, it is us as people, the mandate that was given to the church, where our loyalty was and where it was many of us for our own pocket and our own self-interest. And today we want to make noise. Why so many buildings are falling down? Where the donata is, who maintain it, things on a list, and who's taking care of them. They're falling all over the place for thieves to hide in, for all kinds of illicit activities to take place in. They're not maintaining it. But when the government decides to take it out and clean up the city to try to give us a modern city, like some of the other places, our little sister islands around us that are developing at a rate and leaving us behind, we hitting all over the place and go back and start having your cabaret. I don't want to. Let me see the trust better start looking really deep into and stop spouting the nonsense, because a lot of us will no longer keep silent and take it, because we have been there a long time and we were active.
But let me ask you a question. A straight, keeping it real question.
Yeah.
Do you think that the St. Lucia National Trust has become politicized?
Too much, and I will tell you so. This is my view. I do not care whether Mr. George or Mr. Tulsi or Mr. whoever don't like it. For the past 3 years, from 2014 to 2017, when I was coming in very often into the country and I went to trust meetings, and the trust people would tell me, I was attacked several times verbally. A person who has served this trust for many, many years. I was attacked by a lot of people for giving a view. For people that I had just seen of late coming in, I started getting a kind of abuse from them because they were very highly, as far as I'm concerned, political. But they want to tell me I am political. For all the years I was in the trust, I had never seen it like that because I did 1997, the SLP was in power. This wasn't going on in the trust from between 1997 and so when I left for a while in 2000, I left the country in 2001, returned in 2007, left in 2007 again. It is only throughout that period I have seen this kind of thing in the trust before. It has never happened. It would not happen on the jazz. It didn't happen on this. It happened on the Mr. Toolsy. And if the head of the trust is not neutral, then the rest of the trust, this is my Jocelyn Fletcher's view, nobody else's.
Okay.
That is my view as a long-standing trust member. This is my view. As a trust member, I find that on all those years, under Mr. Toolsy, this trust has become politicized. That is my view.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, caller, for that insight and your opinions, and we appreciate you calling, just as we appreciate all other callers, and we hope to speak with you again some other time. Thank you very much for calling Keeping It Real.
Thank you.
Well, folks.
Wow. You know, but
our callers come from a diverse and interesting set of backgrounds, and we appreciate, even though we may not agree with everyone, we appreciate the input of everyone.
But you know the stock of documents you have here, we have not touched on anything. So we may have to have a special program regarding the National Trust.
Well,
what do you think?
Let me tell you something. There used to be an old radio program, radio plays. You know, long time when you didn't really have TV. There used to be more radio plays. Even now you can get some on the internet and foreign stations. You get whatever app you get that can let you listen to radio stations in the US, in the UK, particularly in the UK. There are lots of radio programs, radio plays. And one of them used to be called Time is the Catcher. And I think Time is the Cat is going to be the catcher in this whole National Trust issue. Thank you for calling Keeping It Real. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I was just browsing and I just happened to hear something about it. So, hey, Champagne, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, sir? Good night.
Yeah, what's up? That's Ian, everybody.
Oh, yes. How you doing, my brother? Okay. Yes. Nice for you to call.
I'm cool. Something else read me about that trust. There is that Mankote.
The mangrove.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, I'm 46 years old. And I've been going to Bashado.
You're 46. Is that in US or in yen?
That's in EC.
EC.
I've been going to Bashado from the time I was about 5-6 years old. And there is that little sign by the road which measures about 3 feet by 4 feet. That has been there from that time.
What does it say?
Makote Mango.
Right.
Just at the entrance of Bashado. And over the years that has faded.
Now there are some people, caller, who don't know where Bashado is. So maybe you can give us a little description of.
Bashado is just about 2 minutes from the international airport.
Okay, going which way? Coming to Castries?
Going to Viewfort.
Or going to Viewfort from the airport?
Yes.
So is that just before the hotel?
No.
Exactly. It's just before the hotel. Just after you pass the stadium.
Okay, so hold on a second. Are you going to Castries or are you going to Viewfort?
To Viewfort.
So if you leave the airport and you're going to Viewfort, you don't pass the stadium?
Nope.
It's a huge
you
area.
go the other way. If you go into Castries, you go north.
Right.
Bashado would be on your right. Just after you pass the quarry.
Okay, so that's you're not at the stadium yet. Before the stadium.
Before the stadium, if you're going to Castries.
Okay, so just after you pass the quarry, on the right side, there's a road going in there.
There's a little going in.
Right. Okay.
There's that little 3 by 4 feet that has been there for almost 40 years.
Okay.
Faded along the years. You hardly find what's there.
So in essence, you're going towards the sea, towards the Atlantic Ocean.
That's correct.
Right.
Now, and all that time, there was government subvention. Right? Just was getting pumped with money. We're going down to 2017. Subvention removed. Can you believe there's a billboard there that measures about 10 or 12 feet?
And what does it say?
I would probably say it costs about over 10 grand.
Yeah, but what does it say?
Now, my point is here. With the government subvention, 3 by 4 feet, you could hardly see it. Without the government subvention, 12 by 12 feet, costing over 10 grand.
But what does it say? The same thing?
Says Marcote mangroves,
okay.
Development.
Well, you know
what I'm saying? This is being hypocritical, my brother.
But that may not. But caller, I like to be fair. That may not necessarily mean anything.
No. But listen, check the timing, my brother.
That's what he's saying. The timing.
Check the timing.
Oh, you mean for note? Yes, but that's you just inferring that. But what else? What was going on in there?
I wouldn't put anything past the test.
But what activity has been going on in the mangrove? Have they had any tours? Does anybody pay to go in there? What activity goes on in there?
They are having tours going on there. But what I'm saying, they've been having activity going on there. Trust me, they've been having a few little things.
Right, but could that larger sign have been to attract attention so that they could have earned more money?
There before.
That's what he's saying. All of a sudden.
That could have been there before. Why all of a sudden?
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. Yeah. You know, you gotta get it out.
My thing is, why all of a sudden that big side is now there? You understand? When they claim that they don't have money, the government took money because they don't have money to do anything. You understand? And all the time they were getting money from the government. They never put it. They never advertised it the way that they are advertising it now. You understand? Now it goes to Mariah Islet as well. There's a hotel right there. They do not have a tour desk right at the hotel. They could have tours at the islet, make money. They never did. They never had a tour. They never took the media on a tour to Mariah Islet.
But what was the talk about? What was the talk about? Maybe you know something about that. Maybe somebody who knows can let us know. I think we'll just go until 1:30. Yeah, since we're in overtime already. What's the story about that boat that the trust got? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know much about it, but what I understood that boat was donated to the trust, right? And then that boat was supposed to be doing tours from to the islet and back. But they were looking for a secure location to put the boat. They didn't want to be taking the boat down to catch the report every day. That would be wasting.
Well, I think there's an interesting story relating to that boat. So, Champagne, you must research that for the next show.
Probably will.
I understood they were trying to put it at the marine base, secure it at the marine base, but the word that I got was that secure it at your own risk. You understand? So they said, you don't want to take that risk, but it matters just pack it up now.
I think what we have to do is well, somebody messaged me here, and it says and say that what it appears, what the caller is trying to say is that now apparently the trust is doing more with less.
Exactly.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting.
But that's why I'm telling you, I'm not gonna put anything past the trust. Nothing at all. It is written. It's big and bold. These guys are political.
Very.
Well, many people have said so. And if they can do more with less now, you left to wonder why they couldn't do it all along.
Yes. Now let's go back to that area, Bashado area there. Now I understood that they have a tour. Listen, you see, that's why I'm going back again. They never took the media on a tour to Mariah Island. All of a sudden they had one last day.
They did. I saw quite a number of pictures.
You
from
understand?
That.
They never did that before.
Yeah.
Look, now I'm hearing there's a tour around the island, taking them to old relics. Never did that before. And right in the area between the hotel and Bashado, in the bushy area there are some relics of the old sugarcane plantation.
Wow.
That place is in abundant, trees covered.
Imagine that.
Don't they know it's there? They know it's there. Have they done anything to it? No. Have they cleaned it? There are no tolls to that place. They could make money there too. These guys know exactly what they're doing and when they are doing it. You know, so it is political, my brother. So sometimes you just have to, I see government have to do what they have to do to move this country forward. If these guys are good, just put them on the side and do what you have to do. That's my take on that.
All right, my friend.
Have a good one, guys.
All right,
Yes,
thank
my
you
brother.
very
Have a
much.
good evening.
Champagne, have your say.
Listen to me. The information you read there earlier in regards to that the listing, because that I never knew about. I didn't even know that the DCA had the final say in regards to what
what gets on the list.
What gets
That's
on the
right.
list.
That's right.
And if you're saying from 1975, these guys had not given even one list prior to this year.
Just recently.
As the whole prison thing came out.
Not necessarily, but very recently.
Mm-hmm.
Very recently.
This is calls for questions, my brother. This is a serious thing. It only says that they have not been doing what they were supposed to be doing. And now we have a court hearing. I think when is that next month?
But then again, hold on a second here, Champagne. Hold on a second here. Okay, hold on. The trust was very vocal. Has been very vocal about the Dolphinarium.
The Dolphin
Park. But hold on. The location where the initial proposal for the Dolphinarium was nowhere on the radar when the Kenny Anthony administration proposed it down there by Canries and Slurry.
That's true.
But the question is, right? The question is, nowadays, a number of people, trust related, talking about, it doesn't matter what it is, we don't want any Dolphin Park or whatever it is. So where were those sentiments a few years? Do you see a pattern developing here? Do you see a pattern developing?
It's blatant, very easy to say.
No objection to the animal lovers. Hey, people can love animals. I don't have a problem with that. But you have to be consistent. You only realize you love animals and dolphins since June the 6th, 2016. Where were those animal lovers? How many years ago when it was proposed? When it was brought up in the budget debate? When it was announced in the House of Assembly for all to hear? Nobody said anything. It just went under the radar. But few words.
But we're giving it real, and I'm going to ask you a direct question. What do you think is the motive of the National Trust?
I don't know.
But you see,
I don't know.
Okay, I leave it at that.
No, you see, the thing is, I don't know what the motive is, but you can suspect.
That's true.
And what I have been alluding to here is that it seems very peculiar, rather opportunistic, very strange, coincidental, that the trust has suddenly become so very vocal when, as this new administration is in office. But all the sign, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do, although you're getting a little old now. Right?
I would know more stuff.
No, well, you might be forgetting more stuff. Your your short-term memory may be gone. You could remember stuff from like 100 years ago.
That'll give me privy to remember a whole lot more
right?
stuff.
But listen to this. 5 years ago, the sewage pump at the George Odlum Stadium / St. Jude's Hospital went out of commission. Right? Flowing into the that same Mankote mangrove that everyone, our patrimony, let's march, they want to take over the Mankote mangrove on it. This shelters so many different fish and sea life and species of birds and all of this. Raw sewage. Where were the concerned people in Vieux-Fort? Where was the National Trust with all of their concern about the Mankote mangrove? All of a sudden, all kinds of St. Lucia National Trust experts on the environment suddenly surface. The same people who were around there. These are not people who dropped out of Mars and suddenly joined the National Trust. They were around all along.
Yep.
Sewage, caca,
yes, sir,
was being pumped and flowing into the Mankote mangrove. For how long? Years. overflowing over there. Nobody said anything at all. Nobody, nada, zero, zilch. Nothing. Nothing. All of a sudden now, June 2016 comes along. They have a problem. But even in the outrage about, to DSH and all of that, they still don't mention the caca.
No, never.
That's going into the like it's of no consequence.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's of no consequence. But the deer said, oh my God. People are dying. People are dying, eh? We'll hear a lot more about people are dying and where they dying, where they died.
Yeah.
Or where they started to die. You know, we'll hear those things. Because when you think that you bring attention to one thing, a lot more other stuff begins to fall out. A lot more stuff begins to fall out. Be very careful the things you wish for. Because you might just get them. Right? All these people who concerned had nothing to say about caca that was going into the Mankote mangrove there. But they concerned about our patrimony. Oh my God. Oh, chucks. Our patrimony. They ban vicious sooty ways.
Well, you have become the new Jugwa.
No, hey, watch it, man. I'm the bow tie man. I'm the bow tie man.
Okay.
No. But you see what it is? We're in St. Lucia.
Yeah.
All that's happening right here is that we're keeping it real.
Of course, that's what it is.
We're keeping it real.
Yes, sir.
Right? We are keeping it real, folks. So, the hypocrisy that continues to be peddled in this country. So, I was talking about a pattern, right? Nothing being said about the Mankote mangrove being filled up with lokaka, right? And everything else that comes out of that, right? Nobody said anything about the proposed demolition, not Gwek, the proposed demolition of the Golden Hope Hospital complex. In fact, if you look over there now, Golden Hope Hospital, even though it's vacant, it ain't got no roof. What happened? It melted? It blew away in the wind? No, my friend. The demolition had already started.
Yes,
and guess what? There had been no DCA approval for that demolition that had already started. Where was the St. Lucia National Trust? Nowhere. Nowhere, my friend. St. Lucia National Trust in existence since 1975. It was their responsibility to list historic sites, architectural buildings, and all the rest for the preservation for the future generations of St. Lucia, to preserve our patrimony. That's what they've all been talking about.
That's the word,
right?
man.
Our patrimony. Right? They're required to submit a list of those buildings. Since 1975 you were enacted. There's only been in those 43 years one submission fairly recently. All of a sudden now, the Royal Jail on Bridge Street, Upper Bridge Street, behind police headquarters, behind custody suites, right?
Has become...
Hold on. After all the trials and tribulations that it went through, after independence, all the politics involved in that, let's not pretend. Let's keep it real here tonight.
That's right.
Okay? After all the halekase with the Royal Jail on Bridge Street, a new prison was built. Bordelais, the 40-star hotel, according to another radio show host, the 40-star hotel. It was vacated however long ago. Right? In fact, you know what? Let me give you the exact year. Okay? Let me give you the exact year, folks, because I like to keep it real. Okay? So if you just be patient with me. It was opened in 2003, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, folks. The St. Lucia National Trust had been in existence for 40 years then. Well, hold on. 1975, 25 and 15 is 40, so it's older than 43 years. Right? 18 and 25 is what? Well, whatever.
25 and 18.
Right? Whatever.
You're right,
I don't know.
right.
My maths, I don't
It's
know
43.
what's going on.
It's 43.
Right? 43.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 2003. So it was 28 years then.
At the time.
Right? The St. Lucia National Trust had been in existence for 28 years when the Royal Jail was closed down. Right? They never listed it between 1975 to 2003. It was closed down, and an opportunity to use it or to list it as one of the sites. The St. Lucia National Trust never even cut a blade of grass in that place. Between 2003 and 2018, one list of historic buildings and sites has ever been submitted by the St. Lucia National Trust. Fairly recently, I'm not going to state when. Recently. That's what I'm giving you.
Yep.
Right? Let the rest come out. Recently. In all of those years, and since the prison was closed or decommissioned, it did not appear on the list. They never did anything to preserve it. It was overrun by transients and homeless people. It was used as an open caca spot. Right? Because if you still go in there now, the smell is overpowering. It was used by drug addicts. It was used as a hideout for criminals who stole articles and hid it in there. Mm-hmm. It was used as a shortcut for criminals, an escape route from Marsha, behind the Marsha River, through Ferrans Dairy there, and through up Bridge Street into Pave, into Hospital Road, and escape wherever. A lot of the pickpockets or whatever, right? A lot of the muggings, you can only imagine, because there was no security there. The policemen are crying, according to St. Lucians, Amwe, for a new location. They have a barracks there where the police cannot even sleep for years. Years. Because it is structurally unsound. What has anybody said about the police conditions? Yeah, we need a police headquarters. Now they're trying to do something for the police. The police say, yes, I used to be a police officer. Dang nammit, let me tell you.
I know that.
Right? Let me tell you about it. The police were always last on the totem pole. Okay? I remember some years ago, during a particular administration, I will not tell you which one. Figure it out for yourself. Those who claim they love everything so much and they considering what's going on so much. Port Police Station was still open. It had not been demolished. And I went in there, and these people have no shame. I went in there, and there were police officers on duty behind the desk. Right? Behind the desk. You want to know what they were sitting down on? Bloody cardboard boxes. Damn it, shameless. Cardboard boxes. The kind of cardboard boxes you will get a washing machine coming in or your refrigerator. You all have no shame? Do you all have no shame? Shameless. Look, let's end this show tonight before you all start me tonight with this foolishness now in this place. Damn blasted hypocrites.
You want to play that song again?
I'll play it for sure. Hypocrites, man. Come on. Y'all think people don't know what's been going on in this place? Nonsense, man. You know, seriously. I mean, these people just get to me, man, with this nonsense. Seriously.
Hypocrite, you dirty hypocrite.
Some people just, they're drinking this nonsense, you know. If you want to argue about something real, you know, say something. Say something that's honest.
All of you hypocrites.
You know, trying to fool people that don't know what's been going on in the place.
Folks, there you have it. I can't stop smiling because my buddy brother Norbert is furious tonight at the end of the program. That's why he chose to give you that song. And you know, you have to give it up to the guy because he used to be a police officer. And if the government is trying to get in a brand new building for the very police officers that are here to serve and protect, and then you have people opposing that, I know it will get not just myself and the rest of St. Lucia But Brother Norbert was very angry. Brother Norbert, you okay?
I'm alright.
You alright now? Okay.
I'm alright. I'm alright. I'm alright. I'm a no nonsense kind of person. I don't have time for that nonsense. Stop fooling around with people.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it's so transparent because there are people. It's an insult to people's intelligence because people know what was going on. But some people just believe that they're gonna repeat and repeat the nonsense, and everybody's gonna believe them. Hypocrites, man.
Okay, St. Lucia. That will take us to the end of the program, at the end of Keeping It Real for another Tuesday. What are we? Episode number 14?
And you know what I want to ask them?
Yeah.
Bring that thing down there. You know what I want to ask some of these people?
Yeah.
Where's the roof for Golden Hope Hospital? Where it gone to?
Yeah, exactly.
The roof, where it went to?
Well, I saw the demolition on that building when it got started. So that I know for sure. That I know for sure.
But hold on. Woosah.
Yeah, I think you need that.
Woosah.
All right, my brother.
Because hell and damnation is going to befall these hypocrites out there. Hypocrites. That's what I say. But anyway.
So there you have it. Well, we would like to thank all our listeners and on all those who contributed with their calls, and we're happy to have you calling us every time. Whatever program we have. Tomorrow's programming will be in all the slow music, and our CEO, Brother Lionel Ellis, will be taking care of that. And on Thursday, we have the George Jones Show for you. Friday, you remember we had a beautiful special edition of Keeping It Real on the Friday?
We had a special edition 2 Fridays
ago. 2 Fridays ago. I don't want to ask you because we didn't even get to touch anything tonight, but anything, but main programs.
A lot of stuff.
We have a lot of stuff.
We needed to go in depth. I think we really needed to go in depth with this National Trust thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more to come.
I think so.
In the days ahead. We shall find out. Yeah. We shall find out. There's the injunction, which is going to be heard October the 8th.
Right.
And today's the what? The 18th, 12 and 8, 20, about 3 weeks from today.
Right.
So we'll hear about that.
But we had 2 or 3 callers calling in requesting that Mr. Tulsi come up on the Keeping It Real show one of these evenings. You think that would be possible? That would be good?
I don't know. I'm not a guy there, but...
No, but you could call me.
At this point, I think it would be best for them to remain out there because they may just be caused to expose themselves further.
Okay.
And really and truly, I think a lot of the information is there. What I presented tonight is quite factual.
Oh, boy.
It's quite factual. So, we'll leave it there for tonight, folks.
Yep.
Tuesday, September the 18th, 2018. You've been listening to Keeping It Real, episode number 13 with Champagne in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm Norbert Williams. Good night.
All right, so we're going to tune into the BBC overnight.